What's up, Chief? It's Mirzi here, and FM26 brought the biggest tactical overhaul in series history. The new in and out of possession system and visualizer tool has given us brand new ways to totally take over the way we want our team to play. But unfortunately, with great choice comes the possibility of getting your tactics catastrophically wrong. So in today's video, I'm going to be going over some of the most common tactical mistakes in FM and how to remedy them. Let's jump into the guide and get those tactics fixed. I spoke of the new in and out of possession tactics that came with FM26 in the intro, and this is right where I want to get started in this guide. The single biggest mistake I'm seeing with FM26's new two formations that you get is people treating them as separate formations. They are not disconnected systems. They're really two phases of the same tactical identity, so they need to work together well. For example, in my save, which I stream on Twitch every day, links down below, I do a 4-3-3 in possession and a 4-1-4-1 out of possession. And as you can see, there's really not too much ground for my players to cover when it comes to in and out of possession. My wingers just have to come back a little bit, and that's really it, honestly. Here's an example of what I constantly see out there: an aggressive 4-3-3 with three strikers that are, you got some channel forwards, and you got your wing backs bombing forward in possession back into a 4-4-2 with two strikers and two banks of four, because that's more defensively tight. What you're not thinking about is the transition. So your fullbacks who are playing wing backs and are bombing up and down the pitch to provide the width, one of your forwards who's going to be playing one of the right or left mid, so in this case it's Toruk, they're going to have to be covering a lot of ground and they're going to be caught out a lot. And FM26's match engine really values transitions and where your players are when you lose possession. So you can imagine these gaps that will be wide open that you are leaving is going to mess with your tactical familiarity, your player performances, and team morale overall. Something that's important is using this both view and looking at the caution signs that will show you, people like Toruk having to cover a lot of ground. Wingbacks and rolls will not show as much here, but another thing that's important is the combined view. I didn't really look at the rolls here, so it looks a little bit messy, but again, it shows where your players are. And another thing that shows where your players are in possession is this view in team instructions. In various places on the pitch, it'll show you with the instructions that you have in and out of possession where your players will be. So this is really important to show the team shape and whether you'll be caught out in transitions, as I said previously. And the golden rule I have is that you can do different in and out of possession formations via player roles, as opposed to completely restructuring your team and where your players are standing in the formations. For example, if you want a 3 at the back in possession and a 4 at the back out of possession, you can have one of your fullbacks play as an inside fullback and the other one play as an inverted wingback or as a wingback and push up and provide the width on the right side. The next thing I want to talk about are player roles and how they interact with each other on the pitch. When picking player roles in and out of possession, you want to make sure that the whole pitch is balanced. So for example, if a fullback is playing as a third center back or is coming in as an inside wing back and playing as a defensive midfielder, then you want to make sure that a center mid is coming out wide or a winger is holding the width. And this is again where the visualizer is going to be your best friend. And through doing this video, I actually learned something about the visualizer, which is kind of a bug, which I hope SI will fix soon. If you have something personalized in terms of roles, what it will show in the visualizer is actually what you have as the original roles. So for example here, the original assigned role here is defensive midfielder, but for Nathan DeCat, who's renamed a dog because a Twitch viewer changed it, whatever, it's going to show the defensive midfielder where defensive midfielder is. So just FYI. So I'm just going to take these off, and this is usually what I play. So when I do put the proper roles on in the proper areas and I take off the personalized roles that I had, this is kind of what I look like building out the back. And keep in mind, for the context, Dennis and Inigas are two of my best players. So a lot of the focus that I have in terms of my buildup is on the right side. So you can see that up here, I'll try to give them a little bit of space. And I have Nolan, my left back, as an inverted fullback, but he's still, coming up and helping in case, he can combine with people like my center mid, who's a little bit more advanced as an advanced playmaker, Stroberg. They can combine and he can even get wide. So it's just important to, have a little bit of balance when it comes to what sort of roles you have. If you have somebody as an inverted fullback, then you might have the center mid a bit more advanced and a wide forward, so keep the width. An example of something you don't want to do is having a role like a playmaking wingback who comes in and kind of is an attacking center mid, with somebody like a midfield playmaker who is going to sit deep and, you know, kind of spread the ball around and try to be a playmaker from deeper. So if you go into the visualizer, you'll see kind of towards the middle of the field, they're kind of bunched up together. So like, you don't want to do that, obviously, because the player's going to be bunched up and they're not going to be able to, you know, link up as efficiently unless they have like crazy good dribbling and link up play and great chemistry, but that's very, very rare. Real quick, if you're enjoying the video, please make sure to subscribe and follow me on Twitch. I stream there daily and I got FM Journeyman save going on right now. The third common tactical mistake that I see, and this especially applies to, you know, saves that are with weaker teams and teams lower down in the divisions, is what I like to call death by 1,000 instructions or team instruction overload. When it comes to this page, when in possession and out of possession and individual instructions, you want to keep the instructions to a minimum. Again, especially if you're in a lower league team with weaker players, the less instructions they have, the less that they have to think about and the more that they can focus on what is going on the pitch. The way I like to think about in and out of possession tactics is I like to focus on one thing in possession and one thing out of possession. So for this particular tactic in possession, we're really focused on playing it quick and playing it wide as soon as we win the ball back. And out of possession, it's all about pressing high and counter pressing quickly. And there's nothing else. Everything else is on balance. Everything else is on standard. But, you know, for example, if you want to, you know, if you have a big target man up top and you want to focus on that, then maybe your in possession focus should be to, you know, get the ball out wide and get crosses in early and focus your crosses to be, you know, more lofted so that your target man can win it. So just think of one thing to focus on in possession and one thing out of possession and just focus on that and leave everything else as balanced or standard if you can. Another great thing about having not many instructions is that it will build up your tactical familiarity a lot, which I've highlighted here. And any new players that you recruit, they will become familiar with your tactics very quickly, which is super, super important in terms of your tactics being successful on the pitch. My golden rule with instructions in general is if I can't explain why I'm adding an instruction, then I will not add it. I don't just add things just to, you know, answer a question in my head or just to assign something. It has to be solving a specific problem on the pitch that I'm seeing. And a quick word on opposition instructions. You know, I will just click on it usually before really important games, usually every game if I remember to, and just apply all the advice that the assistant gives if I think it makes sense. If not, you know, I'll uncheck something. But in general, I don't think about it too much. I just apply the advice that your assistant gives. The final common mistake I see is what I like to call attribute ignorance, or not really looking at your players' attributes when coming up with how to play as a team or what sort of role they're going to play as in your tactic. A great example I have is the center mid situation I have on my current Nottingham Forest save, which I stream on Twitch, which is a situation where basically I used to run a normal center mid and channel midfielder in possession until our buddy Norbert Bartrina, the Spanish international, came through. As you see, our friend here is absolutely world-class and elite passer of the ball. 20 vision, I will repeat again because that's very rare. 16 passing, 17 technique, a good dribble of the ball, great pace, great stamina, great agility, an absolutely world-class player. This guy should not be playing as a channel midfielder, although he can at a high level. This is not a guy that should be playing channel midfielder for you. He should be playing really midfield playmaker or advanced playmaker, depending on what sort of role you're playing or what sort of tactic you're playing. But for me, he plays as a midfield playmaker. I've totally switched my tactics around so that I could fit him into my tactics. When you get a player that's great at something, take advantage of his skill set. So if you get a forward that's got 20 jumping reach, then maybe put him as a target forward. Maybe start playing more direct and play off flick-ons, because that forward has the best jumping reach that the game can give you. So really, you got to use your tactics and the roles that you're giving your players and form it around what sort of team you got, what sort of squad you got. So be sure to assign roles that make sense for the profile of player you have in possession and out of possession. And don't be afraid to use the personalize button. What this does is, if in your main tactic you want your goalkeeper, for example, to play as a goalkeeper, but you want Esposito specifically to play as a sweeper keeper, all you need to do is to click this button and hit ball playing goalkeeper. And if you sub him for Tim's, the other goalie, it'll go back to goalkeeper still, because that is the default role. Anyways, these are some of my top reasons as to why your tactic is failing or not working in your saves.
If you enjoyed, please make sure to give it a like and to subscribe to the channel because I release weekly videos and I also stream on Twitch, so make sure to follow me there. Okay, bye.